JJK Chapter 259 is here. Man, this has got to be one of the most heartbreaking chapters in this anime. Gege really likes to play with our feelings. The chapter starts in a flashback of Yuji and Choso in training. It's revealed that Yuji is gonna switch bodies with Kusakabe and Yuta for his training. That's why Yuji is asking Choso for an advice on how to use convergence. But it seems like Choso isn't really good at explaining things. He says that convergence is like taking a hot bath. You can feel the heat encompassing your body. Noritoshi Kumo joins them and says that it's the foundation of blood manipulation. Kumo adds that convergence is a technique that compresses your blood. He says that it's like squeezing a sponge or crimpling a paper or a can, same also with clay. So it's basically a technique where you compress your blood to pressurize it, in order to shoot it at a high speed. Kumo says to Choso that this is what it means to teach someone, while Choso really wants to teach Yuji. But since they only have a month to prepare and they have a lot of things to do, they don't have enough time to make blood manipulation a potent weapon for Yuji. Instead they'll only use the basics of it for stitching and stopping the blood. It's basically a first aid for injuries. But we saw Yuji using blood manipulation against Sukuna, so our boy did learn it in such a short amount of time. Back to the fight, Sukuna has now opened the furnace. The technique that one-shotted the fire-cursed spirit Jugo. It's revealed that for Sukuna to use the furnace, he needs to prepare ingredients for it first, the cleave and dismantle, so I guess Sukuna needs to use cleave and dismantle first for him to use the furnace. But this technique has a weakness. That is, despite of its insane destructive capabilities, it does not have the range and speed, so it's basically a mid-range technique and it's not that fast, so a fast opponent can theoretically evade this technique and survive. But to counter this weakness, Sukuna took another binding vow. It's that the furnace cannot be used on multiple targets outside of his domain. This enables Sukuna to reduce everything inside of his domain to ashes, meaning that if Sukuna's domain has a 200-meter radius, then everything inside of it will turn to ash. Man, the King of Curses has pulled out his biggest gun. This is why he activated his domain, in order to put all his enemies within the range of the furnace, destroying them in one move. Man, so it's basically a nuclear explosion within Sukuna's domain, and to maintain the shrine's output, Sukuna altered his domain to only allow entry of living things. From afar, Oraomi says that victory is already theirs. As Sukuna unleashes the furnace, a massive explosion erupts as everything within the domain turns to ash, and because of the insane heat from the explosion, it compresses and decompresses the air around it, creating shockwaves, a move that obliterated the Divine Guardian Maharaga. Sukuna's insane move. Man, Sukuna has pulled his best trick yet. It's even stronger than Gojo's Hollow Purple. Dang, I don't see our heroes surviving this one. It is revealed that because of Sukuna's repeated use of Binding Vow to alter the effective range of his domain, that he wasn't able to use Furnace in his fight with Gojo, thus the furnace remained sealed. In the aftermath of the explosion, we can see Choso calling out to Yuji, asking him if what's his doing. As we see Choso's burned face, Yuji answers, "You can't do this," but Choso apologizes that he was useless during his training, because he tends to do things instinctively. As his face starts to crumble away, as Yuji calls him for the last time. I think the reason Choso was able to protect Yuji, given the speed and destructive power of the furnace, is because he tends to do things by instinct. Seeing the imminent danger that they face, he instinctively protected his little brother without even thinking. While the dust and the ashes starts to settle down, we can see that Choso was able to protect Yuji by creating a protective barrier with his own blood, and using his own body. Dang, the things that big siblings are willing to do just to protect their brothers and sisters. In the space within their souls, we can see Choso and Yuji talking. Choso compliments Yuji that he was able to learn RCT much faster than he did, but Yuji replies that it's all because of Sukuna using it in his body, but Choso smiles and says that it's only natural for a little brother to surpass their big brother, but Yuji answers that it's not a reason for him to leave. But Choso replies that he needs to apologize to Tsukumo too, as he again says sorry to Yuji, that's he's gonna leave him again. But Yuji replies that Choso was there when he needed him the most and that's enough for him, as Choso's younger brother starts to call him saying that they're cold, as the big brother Choso answers that it's okay, because for as long as they talk they'll forget the cold, as they say that their 150 years of existence was all just a few days for Yuji. Man, what a heartbreaking scene this is. In the battlefield, Choso thanks Yuji for being his little brother. Yuji also replies with a thanks. As Choso's barrier and body starts to fade away, Yuji comes to a realization that they were not the only ones caught in the explosion and starts to look for his friends, as a shadow steps out from the smoke surrounding Yuji, and it's Sukuna who has just added another kill to his scoreboard, but another shadow also appears and it's Tudo. Just as a brother disappears, another one comes back. In a flashback, we can see Tudo talking with Meimei, as they formulate a plan to rescue everyone from Sukuna's domain. They plan on using Tudo's technique with Meimei's crows to teleport everyone out from Sukuna's domain. Man, it's funny how they had a backup plan above their backup plan. They really scouted Sukuna well, but still falls to his move, killing their friends. Meimei says that being caught inside of Sukuna's domain is a sure death, that's why Tudo needs to be outside of the domain to teleport them to safety, that's why he needs to extend the reach of his CT, but with his injured hand he can't be certain, but he can still feel his CT's throbbing beat. Tudo adds that they can't tell Yuji about their plan, that's because of the resonance. It's because of Yuji and Sukuna's soul inside of the same body, that even now that they have been severed, their connection is still strong, and that might lead to Sukuna knowing about their plan. That's why they need to hide from Yuji. Back in the fight, Tudo gives his condolence to Yuji, and gives a hope for our boy. He says that his friends are mostly fine. Hearing this gave some hope to Yuji, that's in spite of losing his brother, his friends might have survived, as Sukuna now enters into a situation where using his CT would be painstakingly difficult for him. I guess this is because of Sukuna's use of his domain and furnace. Maybe now is reaching the limit of his power, but still, as long as this bad boy still smiles, I would not put my hopes up. Man, what an emotional chapter this is. I think that if this trail of death continues, Yuji would reach a point where he would just unleash his anger and focus on defeating Sukuna, not caring if Megumi dies with Sukuna, because if he keeps on holding back just to save Megumi, a lot more are going to die. That's up, guys. For more JJK updates, hit like, share, follow, or subscribe. Thank you, Winky Face.